So, good morning.
Good morning, Lesley. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So, I'm here with Svetlana Cameron in her studio in Hastings, and it's an amazing studio.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's huge.
Yes, I'm very fortunate. I have a lot of space now, so I can spread out my art materials and my work zones, because I quite often work on multiple projects at the same time. So I can leave them in progress and then move to something else and then go back to it. So it's a privilege.
We can see some of what's going on currently in the studio right now. So, just to take us back a little bit, because this is obviously not your first studio.
No.
And your heritage, you're originally from Russia and then you lived on the Isle of Man. So can you just talk us through when you got your first studio? Was that as a child or as an adult?
No, not as a child. As a child, I did enjoy drawing, but I drew on the table in my bedroom, like all children do, you know, and
Not on the walls.
not on the walls. And my first dedicated work space was a corner of the living room, and then I moved to a separate little bedroom. That's how I started. I think that's how most artists start. And then when we moved, that was in Malta actually, because I before coming to the UK, I lived in Malta for a few years. My first proper studio was when we were living in the Isle of Man. I was already a practicing artist, a full-time artist, and I needed a dedicated space. And that became even more important when the children came along. And I needed a place where I could hide and lock the door. And I wanted something physically detached from the house because it was not possible to work inside the house. And my first studio was a wooden building, like a summer house. You know, you can buy them and stick them in the garden. I called it my garden shed. It was a bit more than a garden shed, but that was my nickname for it. And I was extremely happy there. It was quite small. It was too cold in winter, too hot in the summer. But the wonderful thing about it, apart from being detached from the house, was the fact that I had purpose-built windows. So we bought a building with a wall without windows, and then hired a carpenter and a window company to install full-length, tall, north-facing windows. And that was fantastic. It produced really beautiful, cool light that was stable throughout the day. And I created a lot of wonderful portraits under that light. This studio is a luxurious building compared to what I had before, but the light is very complicated, as you could see when we were setting up. It has too much light, which sometimes is not a good thing. So I have to use a complicated system of blinds and position things carefully to avoid too much light, especially when people are sitting for me.
So when you were looking for this studio, the north light was something. So we've got, yes, we can feel, and even right now, you can feel the sun coming round, can't you, in this building, which you're not in control of.
No, I need to put blackout curtains there. I keep thinking about it.
And maybe, So when you were looking for this studio, that was something that was really important to you, was the light.
The light was very important, and when we were looking for a property, I was carrying a compass with me, and I was checking. We were looking at houses, and one of the criteria was either an additional lounge in the house that I could use as a studio, but it had to have windows facing the right way, and it was really difficult to find. Or we wanted to find a house with an outbuilding, or with enough garden to build something potentially in the future. So this is how we were looking.
And then estate agents, I'm sure they love it.
And we had to rule out and turn down a lot of lovely houses that were even much better and more. We liked them more than the house where we're living now, but it didn't suit us because I couldn't work in it. So that was really important. And then when we came across this property with this outbuilding, I walked in and I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. And the windows are not exactly facing the right direction, but you can't have everything. Yeah. So here I have, as I said, too many windows and too much light, but I've learned how to control it when I have portrait sittings. And I've bought some daylight simulating lamps that help when I don't want to rely on natural light. I can block it out and have light coming from a lamp, in the right amount, from the right direction. Yes.
So we can see around us, you've got the mannequin here and the painting that you're doing from the clothes that are on the mannequin. Mm-hmm. Do you often have people come and sit for you in your studio?
When I had my previous studio and all my clients were local, they were coming to me all the time. I had lots and lots of live sittings. Now that we moved to Hastings and my geography has spread a lot more, and I have now people living all over the country and in Scotland and Liverpool, Northumberland and Switzerland and the Isle of Man, in London. I have a client from Japan who flew last year. He had some business in London and we combined it with our meeting and sittings. So it became more difficult for them to come here. Sometimes they do, but sometimes we meet in London and then we just choose a place with a suitable light. For example, I did quite a lot of sittings in the Lansdowne Club because my clients were members there. So they invited me. I had a look around. We walked all over the building. We looked at all the windows and light sources and everything. And we got permission from the club to do photo shoot. And I did it there. But obviously I couldn't spread out all my paints and work there. When I need to work from life, people do come here and sit for me. Yeah.
So you're saying you've got clients spread all over the place now. What are you working on currently?
I'm currently I'm finishing that painting and I'm going to ship it next month. I don't know if you can see in the video, but there's a big box behind it prepared for transportation of that painting. That's actually going to the Isle of Man, to a beautiful Georgian house there. There's a little little portrait of a boy behind me in progress. That's for a family in London. It's a British South Korean family, and I'm doing this their lovely son's portrait. The next project I'm going to do will be 2 portraits for Japanese clients. One family living in London and one who flew from Japan a while ago. I already have accumulated all the reference materials. We had portrait sittings. I did all the preparatory sketches and lots of photographs. And the lady is going to wear a traditional Japanese kimono with floral patterns all over. Wow. Yes, so I really look forward to that.
We can see lots of paint and brushes and artist paraphernalia behind us. You are quite well known for your pencil drawings though. So when do you decide it's going to be pencil or paint, or do you decide, or does the client decide?
The pencil, you mean the pastel? Yeah, the pastel. Yes, I'm known for 2 techniques. Probably I'm known for my pastel even more than for my oils. And usually it's either the clients have a specific preference and they say, we love your oils, but we really want a pastel because we feel it's going to suit our child's portrait more because it has a different effect, it's more delicate. And sometimes clients are undecided and they ask for my opinion and my advice. Price is also a factor because pastels are more affordable. Oil technique is a lot more complicated and it costs a lot more. So that, especially when people commission multiple portraits of several children, that can be, that can matter. Yes. And sometimes there is no choice, or the choice is obvious. For example, if I'm commissioned to do an official portrait, it's always an oil, because it goes to an institution with existing portraits on the walls, and that's the medium to go for. Or sometimes, if people want, if pastel has its restrictions. For example, a sheet of paper on which I work has a certain maximum size, while canvas is unlimited. You can have as large canvas as you like. And also pastels are framed under glass and oils are not, and people do have opinion on that and not always happy to have artwork with a glass. Sometimes they want it more exposed, and so there are all kinds of things we go through, and then we decide what the medium is going to be. Yes, yeah. And also some subjects lend themselves better for one medium or the other. And when I see what people ask me to paint, I immediately know what would be the best medium for that, and I can advise them too.
You mentioned heritage around Japan and the kimono portrait that you're going to do. And obviously you have a strong heritage as well. Do you like working on pieces that bring out people's cultural heritage?
I do, and I think people notice that in my portfolio, and when they choose outfits for their portraits, it gives them an idea. Like I had a commission to do two separate portraits of brother and sister, and the parents wanted them to wear Scottish outfits, a Scottish dress and a Scottish shirt for the boy. And that got inspired by something they saw in my portfolio, and they thought, oh, that's a lovely idea too, because I painted, before that I did two portraits for a Ukrainian client, children in Ukrainian embroidered blouses, and they really liked the idea, so they bought outfits specifically for the portraits. And that actually happens quite often, that people buy something with a meaning because they want it to be more than just a likeness, you know. They wanted to tell a story.
Yeah, because we've got a lady in an absolutely stunning, very striking skirt that takes up quite a lot of the energy of the portrait, doesn't it? That outfit. And these are her clothes, presumably, that she sent to you.
Yes, she was wearing them during the sittings. We had quite a few sittings with her and the dog. And then I borrowed the clothes. I liked. No, I didn't borrow the dog. The dog was lovely. The dog behaved very well during portrait sittings. And when I do portraits with complex clothes, I always ask permission to borrow them and keep them in my studio, because the photo gives a general impression, but you can't feel the texture, and quite often the nuances of colors, where it goes from bright light into halftone, disappears in the shadow, in the folds, and then reappears again. When you see it in real life, you see all the colors. It's a very complex color when it goes in the shadow, while photography flattens it and simplifies it. And if you copy a photo, you get an okay painting, but if you do it from life, you take it to a different level. And I know that because I had a lot of experience of painting from life before I moved to painting from photos. Now I have this compromise approach because nobody's prepared to sit from life for as long as I need. And also distance is a problem. But I'm not prepared to work entirely from photos. So we have a combination of live sittings, my own reference photography, so I always design the composition from life as if the person was going to sit for me for many, many hours. So we choose the pose, they set up the lighting, decide how the hands will be positioned and the head, and I straighten all the folds of the dress and everything. And then I take lots of photos. So they're my photos that capture my idea, not something that was given to me by a client and say, can you please copy a photo? Because artists who do that, they're totally dependent on the client's choice, but clients are not artists. They do not understand composition. They just see a lovely expression and say, oh, can you please copy this photo? But they're not aware of the fact that you need a correct balance of light and shadow for the portrait to look 3D. You need to design a composition so there are things like focal point, symmetry or lack of symmetry. All the folds on the clothes can be positioned in such a way that they lead the eye around the painting and bring the eye to the right place, you know. So, and then you can choose outfits with the composition in mind, which I do always. And then when you do all that and it works, the painting looks accomplished and professional. And if you don't put thought into all those things and you just take a photo supplied to you and try to copy it, it looks like a copied photo. And then my subscribers on Instagram write to me and say, can you please tell me what I'm doing wrong, you know? And they send me a photo and they send me the drawing. And I said, the thing that is wrong is the reference photo. You will never produce a portrait like you see in my portfolio. Say, I want to paint like you, what I'm doing wrong. And they send me a photo, a reference photo that looks completely flat, taken with the front lighting. And I said, you'll never ever produce a portrait like I do, because you need to start with the basics, with the lighting, with the posing, with the composition, and then you recreate that in your artwork, and then it'll be like that. So I don't remember what was the question. Sorry.
It's fine. That was a very comprehensive
I got
answer.
carried away. We were talking about clothes, yeah?
We were
Okay.
talking, but that was fascinating because with everything, if you don't start from the right point, you won't end up where you want to go, will you?
Exactly.
So you have to know from the beginning where you're traveling to, and if you don't have that right start point, then absolutely.
Yes, so
that's incredibly interesting, I think, for people who look at your portraits and think, how does she do that? You know, we've got some on the wall that you can't see, that we're looking at, of beauty of the Ukraine. I think that's the Ukrainian national dress you were talking about, and the way the material pleats. And as you say, if you hadn't have sat there and pleated it, you'd just taken a mother's view of that, you wouldn't have possibly got that rendition. So yeah, you have to start with the end in mind.
Yes, and this question of working from photography is very, it comes up all the time. All the artists are trying to work from photos because photos are useful, but the mistake they make, they get totally dependent on the photo without actually composing their image from the start, and that's the main thing. Yeah. So everything starts here in your mind. Yes, yeah.
Remember, you have to take your own photographs and you have to.
You need to design your own composition. You think through all the aspects of the future artwork, and then you capture your idea in photo. And then you can. Photo is a very useful tool because it doesn't move. If you paint flowers, they don't wilt in the photo, you know, so there are advantages.
Like that. They like to paint them as they're actually.
Yeah, I understand that. Nothing can be better than painting from life, but sometimes there are practical issues that photography can help with. But you need to use it sensibly.
If you understand how you're using it as a tool, as you say. So we've gone down that whole discussion about materials and studios and how you're composing those photographs. But you mentioned at the beginning that you had a studio in Malta and then you had a studio in the Isle of Man, and now you've got this one in Hastings. What's the difference? Do you find that there's an advantage to being in Hastings? Did you pick Hastings particularly for the light or the location?
When we were moving to this part of the country, we had different criteria. Different members of the family had their own. Like my husband didn't want to live in London. We lived in London before and we had that experience, and we're now in a different stage of our life where we wanted to be in the countryside with more space and more garden and more relaxed lifestyle. But I wanted to be near London, close enough to go as often as I like and do all my client meetings and cultural events, and I need to be near London. So that was, I said not too far.
I feel you, don't worry.
Yes. And then we went south of London because of light, because of the sea, the lifestyle here. We just thought it felt right. We got used to living near the sea in the Isle of Man, and we thought it would be good. Yeah, this is how it all happened. Plus, children were in the equation, the schools, and so lots of things.
Yeah, now you've got children as well. So we all have all this, a bit like composing the photograph for the outfit, for the portrait. Our life has to be a construction of all those things, doesn't it? And the light here is particularly amazing.
The light is good, and the light is a big problem in this country. All artists who travel south of England and to the Mediterranean, they know that, and they come back, there's suddenly like light levels drop as soon as you walk out of a train or plane. It's incredible, the difference. It's very, very low level lighting in this country. Summers are nice, but in autumn, winter, spring, you can't really rely on natural light too much. But this part of the country is very good. I think it has its own microclimate. Yes. The Sunshine Coast, it's called, the Eastbourne and Hastings area, yeah?
Yes, I know. My husband said to me the other day that Hastings has the most sunshine in the country, apparently. And they always said that was Eastbourne, but apparently it's Hastings. So
yes,
yeah, we picked well to live down this part of the world.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's been really fascinating to just chat with you about why you made those decisions, and also understand why you pick your materials and such like. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.